Benjamin Netanyahu. Sometimes I get those two confused. Netanyahu and Mitt Romney appear to believe that Israel is the only stabilizing force in the Middle East. Netanyahu and Romney are correct in this sense. When America was founded, there are a series of deals and misdeeds that everybody who came here, whether they were Dutch or whether they were Italian, no matter whom they were, they all had interactions with the Native Americans. And somehow the Native Americans always seemed to get the raw end of the deal. For example, the Manhattan Purchase, Manhattan Island, purchased from the Native Americans for an equivalent of about $24 worth of trinkets. We gave them pox-infected blankets when they were sick and cold to kill them off. We destroyed their way of life. And in turn, they became savages. And it became unsafe to travel some places out in the West because Native Americans were waiting to savagely, brutally kill your family. Terrorist attacks on American soil. It was happening all the time. And there would be outposts. A fort would be built. Big long pieces of wood, people standing around with guns, and inside the fort, out in the middle of the wilderness, inside the fort was the stabilizing force in the region. All these savages around. Once you got to the fort, as a white person, you were safe. Because you knew as you traveled across the wilderness that this one particular fort, filled with people with guns, white people with guns, you knew you were safe. You knew that was the stabilizing force in the region. But before that fort was there, and before all the white people were there, they didn't need forts, and they didn't need outposts, because the Native Americans were living basically relatively peacefully together forever. You got to get to that fort, then you're safe. Once you're inside the fort, you're safe, because that fort, Israel, is the only safe place in the region. And over time, the Trail of Tears, all the things we did to the Native Americans, all the people who we ripped off have died. And their grandchildren have died. The terrorist attacks from Native Americans have stopped. I can't help but wonder if that's the plan for the Palestinians. That you just keep taking and you set up your fortress, which Israel is a fortress, out in the middle of the wilderness. And a lot of the Muslims, not a lot of the Muslims, enough of the Muslims for me to hear about it, that could be one, say things like Israel has to be destroyed. Well, it does not appear that there's any chance in the world that Israel is going anywhere. So people need to realize that Israel is not going anywhere. And the savagery goes both ways. Israel is much more sophisticated in their savagery, and they're much more sophisticated in their dialogue. If Israel has an agenda to eradicate Palestinians or Muslims, they've never said it. Unlike the Arabs, who keep saying it. That's why they're called secret agendas. If you have something that's hideous and horrendous and you have an agenda and you know that the world would frown upon it, you secretly go about doing it in your own clandestine way. You don't announce it to the world. Then you never get a chance to be as ugly as you want to be. I don't know exactly what's going on, but when I see these people waving their hands saying that Israel needs to be burnt to the ground, kind of boggles my mind. I'm not super surprised, because these are people speaking from their heart, from their passion, from their loss, from their brothers in prison and their children murdered. And I know it goes both ways, but Israel kills a lot more Muslims than Muslims kill Israelis. It's just a straight on fact. You can call one terrorism and the other freedom fighting if you like, but just because one group has more money and is in control, they deem themselves the righteous ones, just as we did. I mean, that's why I'm here in America, sitting in my house on a video, because my ancestors, not mine exactly, but the ancestors that founded America stole it. So I am the product of an illegitimate, thieving group of people who took innocent indigenous peoples and drove them out of their homeland and branded them as savages. And still today, the Native Americans live the lowest poverty level, lowest education level, lowest self-esteem level. And we begrudge them having their casinos so they can get some money. All the land we took from them. So you're right, Netanyahu, Romney, you're right. Israel is an amazing, stabilizing force in the region. And it has to be, because it imposed itself in the region and needed to be stabilized against the flood of all the displacement. Is that fair to say? And again, Israel is probably not unlike the USA. And you look where the USA is today, because we got rid of all of our Native Americans. I mean, basically, wore them down to nothing. I don't think that's going to happen with the Muslims and the Arabs, because there's too many and they're spread all over the world and they're all watching and we've got videos. So there's got to be a different plan. Anyway, let me know what you think.